We need to get to the west to be with them, I said. There's got to be a way through the wall. Of course there is, but the only way to know for sure is to try. And there's a high price for being wrong. Are you so certain there's a way through that you'd risk dying for it? I wanted to say yes more than anything. I wanted to be the kind of person who dared to say yes. Papa would take the risk, maybe Fritz too, but I wasn't sure about myself. If I knew we'd make it, then yeah, I'd try to cross. Then I added, but that's all the bravery inside me. That's not how bravery works, Fritz said. Courage isn't knowing you can do something, it's only being willing to try. His voice trailed to silence, and the record player spat out static in the gap before the next long song began. The needle on the player was going dull. It would have been a long time before Fritz lucked into finding another one. Shortages, always shortages. Once the music began again, Fritz rolled over to face me and rested his chin on his hands. I gotta tell you something, he said. I wasn't going to, but if you really believe there's a way through the wall, you ought to hear this. I leaned forward, certain this was a secret he had kept from Mama at supper time. Do you know Peter Warner, Anna's older brother? Sure. I didn't know him well because he was so much older. He was away at the university, but I saw him occasionally on the weekends. As the first in his family to attend a university, Peter made their parents very proud, and they talked about him all the time. Peter's going to the West tonight. Nobody knows about it but me. I sat up straight. Not even his family. They'll be furious. He hopes they'll understand and maybe even happy for him. I paused, letting that sink in. Then I asked, how is he getting out? Some students in the West got a pass to come to East Berlin for a museum tour. They're going to smuggle him out in their car. It was specially designed just for that reason. I shook my head. It sounds dangerous. It is, but where we live, walking can be dangerous. Talking can be dangerous. For you and me, being the children of Aldius Lowe is dangerous. That's why he never sends letters. Just because of who our father is, they probably watch you from the moment you step out of this apartment until you get inside again. If the chance came for me to leave the same way Peter is leaving, I'd take it. I felt a pinch in my chest. It was it was one thing to think about Anna's brother leaving, but I couldn't imagine if Fritz left too. Would he just disappear like Peter? I was about to ask when a knock came to our door. Fritz looked over at me with a stern voice and said, don't say a word about this. Don't make Mother responsible for knowing. When I agreed, he got up and opened the door. Mama pushed past him and turned the volume down on the record player. They'll hear you on the streets. Not with the windows closed, Fritz said irritably. Besides, the police have better things to do than confiscate teenage music. And how do you know that? Only because they haven't come here to yet to do it, that's all. Fritz nodded and then switched off the player. Neither of us was enjoying it now anyway. Off to bed, Gerda, Mama told me. You too, Fritz. I got up off the floor and gave Fritz a long look back before leaving. Mama stopped me in the doorway and put her hands on my shoulders. I'm sorry I became upset before, she said. I was only worried that you might have been caught by one of those border guards. Can you understand that? Yes, that I understood. I'm glad you saw Dominic, she said. I wish I could have seen him too. He looked good, I said. He was tall as Fritz now, and he looked healthy. Did he seem happy? She asked. I didn't know how to answer that. He must have ached about the divide in our family, just as all of us here did. But he was also free, and I wasn't sure how to give up on that. I wasn't sure he would give that up, even to be back with us again. So I only shrugged the questions away, which seemed enough for her. She kissed my forehead, then said, now good night and sleep well. I wished her good night too, but I knew there was no chance of sleeping well. Sometime in the next few hours, the brother of my best friend would vanish into the west. I whispered a prayer that God would see him there safely, and then carry his family through the storm that would sure to follow his disappearance. Chapter 7. Anna said nothing about her brother on the walk to school the next morning. I didn't think she would. He lived at the university, and it would probably be a while before anyone in her family knew he'd left. I wonder if Peter had left behind a note of explanation, or if he would send word to them once he was free. I wondered how they'd feel afterward, proud of his courage or ashamed that he had abandoned them. And I wanted to know if Peter would ever look back with regret for what he had done. Would I if it were me who left? I glanced at Anna's cheerful expression and felt a rash of guilt for knowing what she did not. It was just as cold today, she said. Hopefully it will begin to feel like spring soon. The weather was trivial, so were the books in her hands, and her annoyance with the boy who pulled her hair when the teacher wasn't looking. Anna wasn't even thinking about her brother today, and all I could think about was whether he was still alive. Are you feeling okay, Gerda? Anna, Anna often preferred to interpret my moodiness as illness. It was the way she tried to understand me. Springtime, sure. Was that even what she had asked? My mind was at Checkpoint Charlie, where Peter would have crossed into the west. Fritz said the car had been specially designed to hide him, but the border guards always searched carefully, and they had dogs and maybe other detection devices as well. I tried to picture Peter sitting in a coffee shop with the other students right now, laughing at how easy it had all been. But I couldn't laugh, not yet. What if you had the chance to go to the West? I suddenly asked Anna. Would you? Anna stopped and glanced around to see if anyone was nearby. When she was sure we were alone, she started walking again, then said, Don't ask questions like that. Don't even think questions like that. It was wise advice, though I never could stop my thoughts from coming. They just did, all the time. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough to stop them. I knew I wasn't. As we approached the same area where I had seen Dominic yesterday, I looked around for any border police. At least for now, the street was empty. Then I turned toward the platform on the west, and but nobody was there. Still, I shuffled my feet and walked slower just in case. Anna seemed just to know what I was doing and grabbed my arm. Please don't, Gerda. He won't come back after seeing you get in trouble yesterday. Maybe not, but I still had to hope. Help me keep an eye out for the guards, and we won't get in trouble, I said. Anna huffed, but she began looking around. We couldn't walk as slowly as I wanted. Other students were on our heels trying to get to school before this cold rain turned into snow. I kept my head down for except the occasional peek to my right. There was nothing, and then nothing again. And just then, before we passed, Dominic's blond head rose into sight. I stopped but didn't wave. Anna gasped and told me not to look. I ignored that and replied, He's my brother. I bet Officer Mueller has family on the other side, too. You can't split a city in half and not divide everyone in some way. Dom didn't wave this time. Instead, he motioned at someone below him to come up. I barely breathed as I anticipated who it must be. My father. His head rose higher with every step up the platform ladder. He wore glasses now, and his light brown hair seemed thinner. It seemed odd to finally see him, looking much as I remembered him, yet it had been so long I felt I scarcely knew him anymore.